Wabash County Museum. I'm Bill Barrows. So we'll see how this plays out, but just based on what we've done so far, just getting things ready to go for the, I don't know, the evaluation going into 2026 starts unofficially on October 1st. So
Well, I know you put a lot of time into it, Bill, as did a lot of other people. It's a lot of work, and you and Teresa, I don't know who all was involved, but it was, to start this thing from scratch is a really big deal. And it's nice to have a Hall of Fame here in Wabash County. So congratulations on getting that done.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. There are now, with this one, there are now officially three Sports Hall of Fames in Wabash County. There's the overall Wabash County Athletic Hall of Fame, which is this one. Wabash High School has one, and Manchester High School has one. Okay. And as you guys both know, I've picked the brains of several people that are involved with both of those. And just when I thought we would kind of have this kind of down to a science, if you will, well, talking to representatives from the schools, Wabash and Manchester, we've got a lot of work to do to get some other people into the nominations on this. By the way, the nominations are open for 2026, and I've already received 5.
Really?
So a couple of them were already in the nominations, and they didn't, people don't know, but it's an interesting process, and it's going to work out really well. The actual Hall of Fame is going to be right here behind us. There is a kiosk that is being worked on right now. It's going to have all of them on there, and all you've got to do is walk up, look at it, and it's touch.
Punching a name?
Yeah, all I have to do is just they're all there. All you have to do is touch it, and the bio pops up with pictures. And I know Alec Jenner, who just walked out, he has been accumulating more pictures, and when I read you this list, you're going to go, ooh, we need to see some of this, and you will once it is online. And I've been assured that it will be within the next week or two.
Really?
So we'll see.
Nice.
Here are the individuals that we did induct, and we'll talk about a lot of these in the course of today's program. But we stole one. Chris Schenkel, national radio and TV broadcaster. He's actually from Huntington County originally, but
I think I mentioned that right away.
I know you did. But he actually spent time as a kid on a farm west of Bippus in Wabash County, so we stole him. Gus DeRay is that name, is synonymous really with football in mid-century Wabash County. Bet you didn't know that George Mullen, Wabash George, was a pitcher for the Detroit Tigers.
I did not.
Back in the day. I'll give you some information on him as we go.
I like the Wabash George nickname. That was
Yeah,
pretty
I
cool.
thought that was cool.
Jelly bean, somebody's in here too.
Pete told me a really good story about him, and I'll tell you that here in a little bit. In fact, I embellished that story at the induction ceremony, Pete. Pete was going to accept the plaque for George, and he ended up being down sick that day, but it was, so I embellished the story. We'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Something you rarely do.
No. Randy, you might remember this name.
Okay.
Dutch Struck.
Yeah.
He was before, he was played before you, or
Right.
coached before you, but,
Right.
I remember from my dad.
Yeah.
About that stuff.
I need to ask the question when I saw that. Remember when we were announcing high school sports?
Yep,
Sergey Struck was a punter
Yeah.
for South Dakota.
Sergey is, he's from somewhere in the middle here, somewhere in, Eastern Europe originally.
Okay.
Different thing.
That's close enough.
Everybody remembers the name L.H. Carpenter. He wasn't just an educator, we'll discuss that. Bill Milliner is one of those guys that Pete was talking about earlier, that played in the Wabash Athletic Association football program. He's an interesting guy. Robert Jellybean Jones.
I
Remember
saw
name?
that one.
That was back a ways too. A coach,
You coached him?
no.
Oh,
He was a Wabash High School wrestler and ended up being a coach and administrator.
How did we lose these colorful nicknames? Jelly Bean Jones, come on, that was great.
Well,
We
you know,
didn't doing that.
And you know why they called him Jellybean when he was a kid?
no
Because they
clue.
said he was soft.
Soft.
He ended up being a state champion wrestler. He's in two different Hall of
His
Fames.
motivation for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One that's kind of close to my heart, W.C. Mills, for reasons I'll tell you here in a little bit. Glenn Kuhlman, who Kuhlman Gym is named after him and his wife. Guy by the name of Billy Tom, who was a coach here at Wabash for only 4 years. But he had a huge impact on the wrestling program and the football program at Wabash High School, and was also an Olympic champion coach, which I'll delve into. Then, now here's some names that you will remember. One of your teammates were Bill Cantrell,
Yeah.
Dr. Steve Allfeld, the Ross twins, Joe and John. I'll tell you some stories about Mac and them from that induction ceremony. Michelle Malzoni, who was the original leading scorer at Wabash High School in girls basketball. Stan Leland, who will be joining us in October, Wabash High School athlete, specifically baseball. Randy, you remember the name Robin Gratz?
Oh, yeah.
I wish Robin could have been to this because he has a litany of accomplishments in football and track at Manchester High School and what then was Manchester College. An amazing athlete.
And a musician, wasn't he?
Yes.
A pianist?
Yes,
Yeah.
still to this day is the organist at his church in Columbus.
He was a long jumper, that's
Mhm.
where I competed against him.
Oh, yeah. Coach Chris Rude, that one was, I'll tell you about that one. That induction was a little emotional for me. Dave Fulkerson, other mid, and then Clyde Lavella, and his son, Rob, accepted the award for him. I've known Rob casually for several years. Hilarious guy. And he brought me like 4 or 5 pages of stuff on his dad. You'll need this, you'll need this, you'll need this. I didn't have all of it. I thought I did. But Rob came up with a bunch of stuff and he was hilarious. Then Kaylee Hensley, we know her dad. She brought her letter jacket with her. 19 athletic letters in 4 years.
Wow.
So far, that's the highest I've found at any of the schools. I found a few that are 11, 10, but nothing comes close to 19. She brought her jacket because she wanted to donate it to the museum, which she did, and we have it in the back. Jeff's working on that. But the emotion and you euphoria of some of these people when they were inducted or their relatives were inducted was really cool. Jared Cordes, who was an All-American, he's an 8, I think, either a 4 or 8-time All-American as a track athlete at University of Wisconsin and Moorfield High School.
Yeah, his wife's better than he is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When I told his wife of his nomination and, you know, he was gonna be inducted in, he didn't believe her and said it should be her. He and I had
Another
quite a,
nomination.
I coached him in
Happily married.
I coached him in Babe Ruth baseball, and I surprised him with a story that I told about him that he thought no one else would know. And he was right, no one else knew. Tom Finnicle from Southwood High School, who it took me 2 weeks to get Tommy to understand that we were going to induct him into this and why, and he still to this day, 2 weeks later, does not believe he is worthy of it. He's a Hall of Famer too, and he's still coaching. Dan Ford, who was a tennis and basketball athlete here at Wabash High School, also multi-year coach in tennis. He also played tennis. He played tennis at Purdue. He's in a couple of Hall of Fames. And then the last one is Mike Emmerich, Southwood High School, Manchester College, National Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Jimmy, take that out. You take it out, I think. Mike wasn't able to be there that day. This is what the plaques looked like, and this is actually Mike's. Mike is Mike's quite a guy. He is a very avid proponent of the Wabash County Museum, a huge donor. You guys have seen it because that's where we used to start this show in the other room. There's a display out here of a lot of his stuff. So there are the initial, that's the initial inaugural class. Let's talk about some of these guys. And Pete, chime in. I may have to repeat what you say because of the microphones, but chime in. Anybody, Mike, any of you guys. What the induction ceremony was cool. We did it at the Ivy Room above Market Street Grill. It was set up very nicely. They did a great job for us. We had kind of a meet and greet at the beginning, and I spent a lot of time with a lot of the inductees or their relatives coming in. A couple of them that really were really interested, or really interesting to me, were guys like the Ross twins, Michelle Malzoni. Michelle's mother is having health issues. She was coming with her daughter. She couldn't be there. I saw Michelle come up the stairs. I stood and talked to her for quite a while. She was as good an athlete, if not better, than her dad, who was really good as a softball player and also basketball and just, some other, but her and I had quite a conversation. The one, well, there was more than one, but one of them that was really, there was a lot of enthusiasm was I'm standing there as people came up the stairs or got off the elevator, and here come Stan Leland's grandkids, all of his grandsons, and they all had t-shirts on with his picture with his Houston Astros garb and all that. Tyler, his son, had made those. Tyler had one on. Tyler's wife, Adrian, had on his pitching jacket from the Astros, and it was the navy blue one with all of the yellow and the orange and all. God, it was cool. And I made her stand up during the induction and show everybody that. But those kids were enamored. For that, it was like a 2-hour overall. It was just less than 2 hours. And those 3 boys sat through that whole thing, didn't cause any kind of issues. They were they're enamored with their grandfather, and it was pretty cool. And, you know, I caught Stan in high school when he was a sophomore and I was a senior, and I caught him in Babe Ruth too. He could throw and probably still can.
Yeah.
So, who else do you want to talk about, Jimmy?
Jelly Bean. I love the nicknames. And when I was reading about him, it just amazes me. We had a gentleman in Huntington County named Mark Hamill, and Mark played for the Green Bay Packers. I see Jelly Bean played for the Green Bay Packers. And we just don't get that anymore. And I'm kind of amazed as to how years ago, we had people right from our communities playing for professional football teams. And I wonder where that went.
Money and drafting, I guess.
Did they?
But the thing is, back then, doing some of this research, back then, people who played college ball back then was more important and more high profile than pro football, and much more of a risk. And he's one of them in particular, played for a couple of years, I think 1 year maybe with the Packers. There's a couple others.
So he started 12 games his rookie season.
Yeah,
with the Green Bay Packers.
and that's the only one he played because back then they were afraid that one, the NFL might not make it. And I just read a really, really good book about that, which I'll tell you about at some point. But it was a risk, and they were more worried about finding a job, settling down, starting your career, and making money.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's what he did.
Carl Erskine talked about that a lot, having to have a summer job
Mhm.
once the season was over, or living in a tiny apartment in New York City. It's, professional sports obviously wasn't back then what it is today, as far as the money, the revenue and salaries and all that. So back then they had to have summer jobs. That's,
Yeah, even in a more modern era, Steve Platt, I'm sure some of you have heard that name. He was my neighbor. He was my hero growing up. And he tried out for the Washington Bullets right out of Huntington University. He was the last man cut in the exhibition season, and that year they won the NBA title. The Bullets told him if he stayed on through the rest of the exhibition season, they thought he would get picked up by another team. But he had crops in a field. He had a wife and 2 young children. So he came home. Because again, it wasn't the multi-million-dollar salaries that there are today. So he came home and started a life.
what years was it that he played for the Packers? I didn't hear.
I don't
I'm
know.
glad you've got that on there because
Well,
I've got
yeah.
all of this, but I've got all of the induction bios that I read that day.
I don't know that it actually says, Rick. Now, he was a member of state championship teams in 27 and 28.
Okay.
It was in the mid to late 30s, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was
Yeah, the NFL was in its infancy then.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
oh,
they
no.
weren't making big money, were they?
No, no.
Well, just to give you an example, I read a book, it's called the original 5, it's called Legends, and it was, the reason I'm gonna tell you this is because it will accent that point. It's Art Rooney, Tim Mara, George Hallis, I wanna say Bill Bidwell, who his family still owns the NFL Cardinals, and who was the other? There's 5 of them. Shoot, I'll think of it. But anyway, they were the ones that started the NFL back in the 20s. And I mean, they were living, I mean, as owners, they were living hand to mouth just to keep their, George Preston Marshall was the other one. They were living hand to mouth just to keep their teams afloat. So it was a definite risk to be a player in the NFL at that point.
Well, if you guys remember too, we had the privilege of interviewing Oscar Robertson on our sports talk show a few years ago. And I believe it was Rick, someone asked him, do you feel cheated that these guys are making millions of dollars today? And you played in the NBA, one of the greatest of all time. And he said, no, not at all. He said, I got to play against the greatest basketball players in the world. I said, I'm not worried about the money. It was a great answer. Remember that?
Yeah.
Let me read you. Here's the bio for Bill Miller, who also was a guy that played in the NFL for a year. 1936 graduate of Wabash High School, starting starring in football, basketball, and baseball. After graduation, he continued his versatile athletic prowess at Manchester College. While there, he earned 4 varsity letters in football, 3 in basketball, was captain of the 1940 team, and selected to the 39-40 All-State team. Served as quarterback in college, received an invitation from the New York Giants to report for tryouts, which he never did, because he ended up coaching at Monroeville High School over at Hoagland, and during the 1941-42 season. After his coaching career was interrupted by wartime service, he then led that Allen County school, which was very small at that point. He had a 75% winning record, sectional, regional, and semi-state championships. The only county team in the Fort Wayne area to have ever achieved those titles, creating records that still stand. I'm talking county here, Allen County, not inner city,
Right.
Fort Wayne. In 1948, as he was mentored by legends, listen to these names, Tony Hinkle of Butler and Hank Iba of Oklahoma A&M, that's now Oklahoma State. He was hired by Elkhart and was the new coach at Elkhart High School. Over the next 6 years, he had a winning percentage of over 75%, 2 conference championships, 5 sectionals, that's why they didn't play in the NFL, because they knew that their future was going to be much more stable in the regular, market, if you will. It's amazing how many of these guys. There's Jelly Bean Jones, but you've got that one on your phone. Here's an exception. George Mullen, sometimes known by the nickname Wabash George,
Great.
was an American right-handed baseball pitcher. Pitched in the major leagues for 14 seasons, mostly with the Detroit Tigers, from 1902 to 1913. Also played for the Senators. He compiled a career record of 228 and 196 with a 2.82 earned run average. This is serious stuff, dudes. 1,482 career strikeouts. He was also a strong hitter, batted over 300 for 2 different seasons. Compiled a career batting average of 262, which in modern baseball is you're a Hall of Famer.
Hey, he's an old-time Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, there you go. He's basically the original, because he would have been playing before, well, really at the same time, or parallel to Babe Ruth. In 12 seasons with Detroit, he helped the team win 3 consecutive American League pennants from 1907 to 1909. He had 5 20-win seasons for the Tigers. There aren't that many guys that have done that. Fergie Jenkins, Sandy Koufax, guys like that.
Well, and he had 29 wins in 1909. That's
That was a
unheard of.
record. That was a record until Denny McClain
Yeah,
Right.
beat that. It had been tied. Was it 30 or 31?
I think he won 31.
31, because Dizzy Dean got 30 at one point.
That hasn't happened since.
No,
No,
and it won't.
won't ever again.
3,394 innings pitched.
That's big time stuff.
336 complete games. He was married to some personal thing. He was married to the former Grace Ackerman. He pointed me in that direction.
Yeah.
Who was from here. Had a daughter named Beatrice. After retiring from baseball, took a job in 1919 with the Service Motor Truck Company. We had one of their trucks right out here. And he was an Elks member and worked there here in Wabash. He died in 1944 here in town. Now, I'm going to tell you the story that Pete told me. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, okay?
I shall.
When Pete was a little boy, his dad used to take him into the Elks Club. I'm like,
My grandfather.
your grandfather used to
And,
take him.
and the Elks was down on the corner.
Right, where the parking lot is now. That's where it was when I was a kid. George was an employee there, and he was the bartender. and he used to do magic tricks for Pete.
Really?
Well, and there was a penny slot machine on the north end of the bar there. And my grandfather would give me pennies to put in this slot machine. It was a little one, orange color. And I hit the jackpot. And $1.02, I wanted to 2 pennies.
Tax free?
You know, when you're a kid, you remember things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can remember that George Mullen counted them out for me, and what my memory is this: he had massive forearms, you know, and he's sliding those pennies across the bar, 2, 4, 6, 8. That's my only memory of George Mullen. You know, my grandfather told me that he was a baseball player.
I
And
just,
you talk about summertime jobs for football players. George Mullen worked several winters at the paper mill because he knew that was hard labor and it would help keep him in shape. And so they would hire him each winter at the.
that was the lifestyle then, if you were an athlete. I mean,
Yeah, people forget they had to work
mhm.
off-season in regular jobs just like us.
I mean,
Well, that's the great thing about this, Bill, and what you've helped get started here, that, these names shouldn't be forgotten. These, baseball, football, professional sports didn't start when we were born. You've been doing this for a
Yeah.
long time, and, it's really nice to recognize them.
Now, do you have the story, and I cannot remember this man's name right now, but briefly, there was a man from Liberty Mills who played a few games as catcher with the Tigers.
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
I researched that information that you gave me. I can't remember his name.
Well, I can't either.
He will be on the nomination list. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. And I don't have that here, but yeah.
Now, I have not found where he caught any games for George Mullen. But I think that would be remarkable if
Yeah.
we could establish the fact that here was the battery, both members from Wabash County.
I mean, there's another guy, you'll remember that his last name was Spurgeon. He's originally from Serbia, and he played for the Cleveland.
I'm sorry, I said Liberty Mills.
Serbia,
I
that's,
think we're talking about the same.
yeah,
man.
he played for Detroit, but he ended up having a 4-year, career with the Cleveland Indians until he broke a leg. And back then, they didn't have what they have now as far as medical. That ended his career. I can't remember his first name off the top of my head, but he is on the nomination list.
Yeah, I misspoke when I said Liberty.
It was Serbia, but there's a couple others that were professional players that didn't get to George Mullen's, level or whatever.
Did you mention Mullen's no-hitter
Yes, he had a no-hitter
on his birthday?
on his birthday, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the first no-hitter in Tigers history on July 4th, 1912, which was also George Mullen's birthday. Very cool.
Very interesting.
Here's one that's really close to my heart because of my involvement with Wabash Community Service and the Wabash County YMCA. W.C. Mills, and here's another one that Pete grew up watching and listening to. One of the most beloved characters in the history of Wabash. Was born in a 2-room cabin south of Wabash. He graduated from Wabash High School in 1913, which took me a while to find. It said he graduated from Wabash High School, but it took me a while to find it. I had to go through a bunch of yearbooks. Thank you, Alex, for those. He was called to missionary work after the city of Wabash was lucky enough to be selected by the National Community Service Program when money was left unspent after World War I. It was strongly suggested, actually by the mayor's wife at that point, that W.C. Mills needed to head up the program. He began his Wabash Community Service involvement in 1921, where he was appointed director of the Wabash Community Service that was then housed in the Wabash Athletic Association building, which was up on Main Street, right over here. You know where the hair salon is that used to be Grand Staff Lincoln? Yeah. There's a big open lot right across the street to the south. That's where that's set. I have pictures of them, and they're more drawings than pictures, but it's actually pretty cool. He headed up that program, became a driving force in Wabash, created basketball and softball leagues that you and all three of us played in. All of us probably played in them. Set up ice skating on Gipes Pond. Does anybody know where Gipes Pond is other than Pete? Shut up, Alex.
No fair.
Okay, you know where you're going north on Cass Street, where Charlie Creek, you go across the little bridge where Charlie Creek is. And there's an old football practice field. I think Wabash Middle School still uses that. Right in that area was Gipes Pond. They would, W.C. Mills would dam that in the winter. And, I mean, there was a pond there anyway. That's where kids swam. But he would dam that up in the winter, and that's where they would ice skate.
Yeah, we used to do that. I just didn't know what it's called. I mean.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I found an old map, and it actually says Gipes Pond.
You know, and Gipe had an ice business, and he would cut ice in the winter from that pond.
Amazing.
And it was the scene of more romances than you could imagine.
I like that.
Is this a personal confession?
Maybe
Should
you
we
belong
ask
to the
Susie
Hall of
about
Fame.
this?
That's right.
Should we ask Susie about that?
Well, see, that was way before our, because my mother used to talk about ice skating on Gipes Pond. I was born in 1935, and the pond was right at the end of its heyday.
Oh.
At that time.
Maybe it didn't. Well, maybe that wasn't when we skated on, but they would flood something down there. And then they did the pool parking lot.
Right. Sidebar here. Pete's mother was my high school English teacher, probably yours too.
Oh,
Yeah. There were very few people as good as Martha Jones in my eyes,
Just
when I
one.
was growing up. Back to W.C. Mills here for a minute. During the Great Depression, he was paid very little. When the Wabash Athletic Association's gym was condemned, he personally organized the maintenance of children's activities in various buildings around the county, not just the city, around the county, and on his personal property on Columbus Street, which is, I drive by it every day going home, until the construction of the Honeywell Center, which is another story that we'll get to at some point, not today. Virtually all of the outdoor and athletic activities in Wabash owe their existence of facilities in some way or another to the groundwork laid by W.C. Mills, and I've benefited from that as the sports director of the YMCA for a number of years. If he were,
by coincidence, the YMCA was dedicated on Mill's birthday.
really?
Nobody knew this. Nobody knew
May
this.
was May 2nd?
And, well, whatever, well, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and
It was
look.
before.
And I could not think of any finer accident to have happened.
Wow.
You know, they were totally unaware of this, and after it was all over, I realized that it was Mill's birthday.
Wow, I did not know that. I will make sure that Dean Gugleski knows that,
Yeah.
as the YMCA executive director. Trivia question. Rick and I do this in the car with our wives or in restaurants. We'll just start. Who played third base for the Red Sox in 1965?
Rico Butch, no.
No.
No, you got me on that one, buddy.
Joe Foy. Or George Scott. First,
I thought he was first base.
no, he played first ball. All right,
Rico was the shortstop.
Oh, I failed that one.
all right, okay, so here's here's the trivia. What two Wabash individuals, Pete, don't say anything. What two Wabash individuals were the driving force behind the CIC, Central Indiana Conference? The Wabash, Elwood, Tipton, Huntington, all of them were involved with. They were both inducted into this Hall of Fame.
Dave Fulkerson?
No. He did a lot of good things though. I'll waste all day doing this. Pete knows. Carl W. Burt and Glenn Coolman. Carl Burt is an interesting story. He was a coach, he was a teacher, he was a really good player in four different sports. Not originally from here, he was from a small town in Illinois. Or no, excuse me, that's not him. He was at Atwood, just west of Warsaw. Basketball and baseball star, played semi-pro baseball, scouted by many major league teams. Graduated from Manchester College and the University of Chicago. There actually is a book. He was honored with the 50th anniversary book, Carl Burt, the Father of Manchester Football. I'd say Carl Burt it's not. Carl he started the programs, the sports programs at Manchester College, which is a big deal. The two guys, I'm wrong, Pete's gonna correct me on this. The two guys that started the CIC were Dutch Struck and Glenn Coolman. So Dutch Struck is touted as arguably the best coach to ever come out of Wabash County, supposedly. Now there's been a lot of coaches, but he and the IHSAA had been started in 1903, and they were making strides, but Dutch and Glenn got together with a guy, I can't recall his name, from Elwood, and they put together what we all knew as the CIC. And that really wasn't their claim to fame. Their claim to fame was the fact that both of them were longtime coaches and very, very successful coaches down through the years. It's some of the things that we see in the pioneer era. There were three eras in the Hall of Fame. There's the pioneer era, which is 1860 to 1950, the contemporary era from 1950 to 2000, and then the modern era from 2001 to the present. A lot of the people that are in the pioneer era or the early part of the contemporary era were the people who developed and really, became the foundation of what we see in Wabash County sports today, whether it be any of the high schools or Manchester University. And getting back to Carl Burt, he was that guy at the college. There have been a lot of other coaches at Manchester College down through the years that have helped develop that, but he was the foundation. And I wasn't able to find anyone of any descendants or anything there. Teresa and I worked for weeks trying to find some of these people's descendants, but Brady McClure found me some information. He's the principal he's Steve's son. He's the principal at Manchester High School, and he was able to push me in the right direction on a few things there. But I think, and I'm gonna preach here for a second, don't need to, but I think we need to spend more time and effort being cognizant of people who helped develop sports programs at Manchester University. University.
Absolutely. They need to be remembered.
And I mean, Carl's one of them, and he's in this Hall of Fame. But believe me, there are many, many more. And some of them have Wabash area high school resumes, whether it be going there as athletes from one of the schools, and I'm talking about all the way back to the LaFountains and the Chesters and, you know, whatever, not just Northfield, Southwood, Wabash, Manchester. But not just them, but coach or people who went through their programs as athletes at Manchester University and then became influential coaches in Wabash County or on the peripheral, because gosh, there's a lot of them. I mean, their Hall of Fame is very extensive, and I'm working behind the scenes a little bit on trying to find some of that info and getting more of those people involved. What do you got?
Well, you mentioned W.C. Mills,
Yep.
and you know, you're talking about the people who were instrumental in the historical development of sports in the area, which is great. Manchester, Wabash, the high schools, the colleges. But I'm really intrigued by a guy like Walter Mills. You know, he's developing, as you said, leagues that we all played in, and guys like us that went on to coach young people in little leagues, and you know, you've been director of that. And I think this Hall of Fame, I'd love to see more nominations from people of, hey, this guy played fast pitch softball for 20 years, or that guy played at the Honeywell Center in the basketball league for all these years. Those are the ones who are definitely forgotten, and there's no other Hall of Fame to them. So reading about a guy like Mills who just established these leagues for kids, it sounds like, that's tremendous.
Well, and the softball edition of Talkin Sports several months back, where we had Bill Lowther and Pat Henry and Richie Graff and, you know, those guys, and that was the day that we had Steve Dyer and Bob Van Lanningham with us. There's another open door. There are, as you said, there are people who played in those leagues that some of them came before us, but guys we played with that are on the nomination list, and some will be added to it. I mean, think of these names: Dave Irvin, George Sammons, you know, Bob Van Lanningham and his brothers. They were all really good. People like George Nagel from what was Wabash Smelting at the time. It's now called whatever. It used to be Wabash Alloys. He owned that, and he was a very big proponent of sports, you know, as far as adult sports for people who worked at his factory. There's Mr. Vaughn. What was his first name? Oh shoot, I can't think of it, but he was.
I know where he lived.
Yeah, he lived not very far from where you used to
Yeah,
live.
I can't come up with his first name.
But he, that's a guy we'll discuss down the road. But if it hadn't been for him, there would be no softball field where it is now. It was just an open lot that was just, you know, just collecting dirt and trash behind what was then the original Wabash Hospital, which is
Yeah, they had when it was a hospital, or when it was an orphan's home, they had an orchard
yeah.
behind it.
Mhm.
And even when I was a kid, there was still one pear tree left down the right field foul line. And that worked into the ground rules on that.
Oh yeah, you told me about that. I remember.
Why they never cut down that tree, I don't know. It just played around it.
Yeah. We certainly spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, yeah,
I spent a lot of time there as a kid watching my dad play.
yeah.
All right, here's one that's, where, that's not the one I wanted. Let me find it here.
Vaughn was from Chicago, and he came here to run the Wabash Cabinet Company.
Yeah, that was it. Which he did for a number of years, according to what I had. Dang it, where did I put that? I wanted to talk about Billy Tom. because, oh, here it is. Shoot, got it right in front of me. He only coached at Wabash High School from 1924 to 1927, but made a huge impact on athletes that he coached. I need to count them, but he was truly one of the nation's true pioneers in wrestling. He was a halfback on Iowa's 1922 national championship football team, started basketball and track, learned wrestling, remember this? Learned wrestling from the Farmer Burns correspondence course. Whatever that is.
Apparently worked.
Apparently worked. I have tried to find that as a reference point, have not been able to do so yet, but I will. He coached football, basketball, and wrestling for 3 years each and track for 2 years at Wabash. Coach Tom coached the 1927 Indiana State Wrestling Champions. In 4 years as a high school coach at Wabash, his wrestlers were undefeated in dual meets, placed third, second, and first twice in the state tournament. His football teams had a record of 20-7 at Wabash. Get this. This goes back to the work ethic. He augmented his depression era income by competing in professional wrestling. He was unbeaten at 150 pounds and once held, this is while he's coaching, once held world titles in 3 separate weight divisions at the same time. How do you do that?
Well, he was assistant coach. Who was the football coach in 27, 28? Who was also, was that Dutch? Who was, because he was the assistant coach, wasn't head football coach. I don't even know, I just thought, you know.
It was Struck, but also Jelly Bean Jones, who was a player or a wrestler, was also helping coach the team,
Okay.
according to his bio.
But he wrestled in a professional, he did professional wrestling?
He was Dick the Bruiser before Dick the Bruiser.
I was gonna ask him, was he in Dick the Bruiser's era, and the Crusher?
Yeah,
Moose Cholak.
Moose Cholak. He left Wabash and moved on to Indiana University, where he served as wrestling coach from 1928 to 1945, winning 8 Big Ten team champions and the 1932 national title, NCAA title. He was Dan Gable before Dan Gable. Think about that. He launched it. What?
How did you, what kind of research, how did you come up with him? Was it Pete? I mean,
Pete helped me. Alec Ginnen sitting back
because
over
those
here.
people obviously can be easily forgotten.
Yeah.
And shouldn't be.
That's why.
How you came up with it. I mean,
That's why when Teresa came to me and said, Teresa said, I just came from a seminar or something, and she said, there were people talking about different things, and she said, I had a thought. She said, do you know anybody that might be interested in heading up a Wabash County Athletic Hall of Fame? And I go, I think I do. That's when I was already doing research, sports research, for the timeline that we're going to use when we refresh all of these exhibits downstairs and upstairs. And I was taking care of all the sports part of it with the help of guys like Pete and Alec and guys like Lou Curlis and several others. I was on the original sports committee back 25, 30 years ago when we were trying to open this building and had the sports department, which was right back here and up the stairs. And on that committee, here you go, guys. On that committee, Bob Dawes, Jim Kaltenmark, Steve Shoemaker from Manchester, Dan Wilson, Lou Curlis, and me. And I was a pup compared to them. And Dan Wilson has also helped me with some of this stuff. And you know, Dan, yes. Here, quick sidebar on that. One afternoon, I came back from lunch, and Dan is standing back here, and he's talking to Brian Hopper. And of course, he knew me, and we started talking. And I looked at Brian, and I said, Brian, I said, can you tell me who the all-time leading scorer was at Noble Township High School? And of course, Brian, it was a random question, he had no idea. And I said, Dan Wilson, 1,042 points. And Dan looked at me and he goes, how do you know that? Because I did all this research.
Your head's full of worthless
Yeah,
knowledge.
you sound like my wife. She calls me the king of worthless trivia. Anyway, back to Billy Tom here real quick. He won the NCAA title. He launched an 18-year wrestling and football coaching career in Indiana, where his teams posted a dual meet record, 110, 21, and 3, which included 7 undefeated seasons and a streak of 45 consecutive wins. They won 18 trophies and 35 individual titles in the Big Ten. 13 of his wrestlers won 15 NCAA and NAAU championships. He also coached the 1936 USA Olympic team, winning the gold.
Wow,
Mic drop.
that's amazing.
Wow.
That 36 Olympic, the Olympics in 1936 were politically charged.
That was
Germany.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was, That was the,
Hitler was there.
mhm.
The sprinter, right?
Yes,
Jesse
Owens.
Yeah.
Jesse Owens.
All right,
And it
So-
all started with a correspondence course.
yeah, correspondence.
That doesn't happen today.
No,
You know what I'm saying? I'm so
That's like,
amazed.
that's like ordering a house out of the Sears Roebuck catalog all those years ago.
What's
To me-
the guy, Don, the IU announcer,
Don Fisher.
Don Fisher? I read an article about him once. If you guys remember this, Sport magazine,
Uh-huh.
of course it's going.
We all got it when we were
In the
kids.
back, they had these little want ads. Don Fisher got out of college, didn't have a plan for life, looked at Sport magazine, saw a want ad, 6-week course on how to be an announcer. He took the course, walked into IU and said, do you guys ever need anybody to announce your games? And the rest of the story is he's doing it, 40 years later. That's how he got started.
Here's how stupid I was. I went to Purdue with pretty much no direction other than I wanted to be a teacher and a coach. So I was in the phys ed department, and there were 2 sides to the phys ed department. There was teaching, coaching, and physical training, and the other side was business, recreation, and broadcasting. Now, think about this. All the games that the 3 of us have broadcast together is probably a third of what I have broadcast locally here over the years. Probably only outdone by Bill Rogie, who's another guy who's in on this nomination list. But I had no formal training. I'm an idiot. If I would have gone into that program, you never know. I might have been Mike Emmerich.
He could have been
Or Chris
Chris Schenkel, absolutely.
Or Harlow Hickenlooper.
There's a name.
Even better.
Vin Scully, you'd have been Vin Scully, Bill.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't have been that good. All right, here's one that's close to our heart, and Rick, you'll like this one. Jumping down, Clyde Lovella, who I wish Steve was here because Steve taught and coached with Clyde for a number of years.
I was able to do a couple of games with Clyde Lovella on local TV in Grant County.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Interesting man,
Very interesting.
and a very accomplished athlete.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about
Yeah, I'll
that.
never forget, I listened to one of those games, and right after halftime, team came out and Rick said, gee, they're in a zone, it's a 3, well, it's some kind of zone. Sorry, Rick.
True.
Clyde was a Terre Haute native, fostered the trend of tall, physical, and high-scoring centers in the early days of college and pro basketball. 2-time All-State performer in high school at Terre Haute Garfield. In 46 and 47, the 46-47 season as a junior, Clyde's previously undefeated team lost the Indiana State Championship in the finals. That might have been the only game he ever lost, which is facetious, but anyway. 6'9" giant was recruited to play at the University of Kansas by the legendary Fog Allen. Their arena is still named after him to this day. He led KU the Big 7 conference before the Big 8, obviously. I wonder who the team was they added later. As the Jayhawks to the 1952 NCAA title, capturing the most outstanding player award honor and scoring a then NCAA record 141 points in the tournament, and was a 3-time All-American at Kansas. He won the Helms Foundation Player of the Year award, as well as the Sport Magazine Player of the Year in 1952. He's still the only player to lead the nation in scoring and win the NCAA championship in the same season. Now think about that. Oscar, Michael Jordan, all of those guys, Chris Mullen, none of them did that. That was one of the things that his son Rob pointed out to me, and I thought, I have to put that.
That's amazing. Yeah.
He then led the 1952 USA Olympic team to the gold medal in Russia, or versus Russia, in Helsinki, Finland. He was first round pick of the Minneapolis Lakers, and in the 1952 draft, at the pro level, he became one of the first big men to move outside and utilize the one-handed set shot that extended his shooting range and offensive repertoire. And that was long before the three-point arc, too. This tactic enabled him to play either small forward, power forward, or center, forcing the opposition's big man to play out of position. He played 11 seasons in the NBA, winning 3 league championships, one with the Lakers and 2 others with the Celtics, and he played on 3 All-Star teams. Here's the important part. He is the first of only 8 players in history to win an NCAA title, an NBA title, and the Olympic gold medal. He was inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame in 1982. His number 16 jersey is retired by the University of Kansas, and he was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 1988. At White's, south of town, Clyde served for 20 years and was successful in providing a positive influence on many wayward lives, and we know a lot of those kids. He also was the White's basketball coach during that tenure for a number of years. His family was so proud. I got the impression, Rob never said this, but I got the impression that they might have been more proud of this honor than they would have been of the others, simply because it's local. I mean, I wish Coach McClure was here because he could really go into depth on that.
He speaks glowingly of Mr. Lavellet, is that it?
Yep.
And one of the things I'll never forget he said about him was, with all the things he's done, all the accomplishments he's had, he'd rather talk about the Lord than he would himself, his accomplishments. That's a pretty big deal.
I figured you guys would have some film or something to talk about while I fumble around my paper.
Well, I've got a question.
All right.
Can anybody in here tell me, when you talk about firsts that he's had, I'm a huge Celtics fan. Love watching Larry Bird. Celtics Lakers, one of the greatest rivalries of all time. Does anybody know of anybody else who's won NBA titles with both teams?
Lakers and the Celtics.
Lakers Celtics. He's won with both the Lakers and the Celtics
As a player.
as a player.
And that rivalry?
Yeah.
I'd love to know that answer.
I would love, yeah, it just struck me. I thought, I wonder if anybody's ever done that.
Do you have the answer or you have?
No, I'm asking. I'm
I'm
asking.
on the edge of my seat waiting for
That's
that.
right.
No, I want somebody to tell me. Look that up, Rick.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'll shoot it on the phone here while you
All
guys.
right. Here's one that's kind of close to my heart, and since you and Randy are here, this one rings really close. Bill Cantrell was a 1967 Wabash High School graduate, where he earned 13 varsity letters at that time, a school and probably a county record, football, basketball, track, and baseball, along with the highest athletic award, the letter blanket. Which by the way, his widow told me that she gave his blanket to Tony, his son. I thought that was really cool. He was the 1965 Central Indiana Conference leading scorer in basketball, 65-66, 66 captain of the football team, and a 67 captain of the football team. You played in that era, didn't you, Rand? Both of you guys, in that era.
68 grads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he dated my cousin when he was a freshman or a sophomore, spent some time at our house. He was, for lack of a better term, he was Michael Jordan when I was a kid in Wabash. I didn't know anything about, Oscar Robertson or any of that. He was the coolest dude. He would come in and he came, I didn't know this until later, but he came from, and you guys can attest to this, he came from nothing. I mean, nothing. But he treated me and my little brother like we were, gold. And I learned later on, we played a lot of softball and basketball together. But he was my hero. I mean, he was my first hero other than my dad. Set a 1966 football record, 10.5 yards per carry, and 1966 All-State Football First Team All-Conference, 66-67 First Team All-Conference in basketball, named the Gus DeRay Loyalty Award winner for football, which he was very proud of. Listed as a top 100 state of Indiana basketball player for the 66-67 season. And first team honors. He was the first player in Wabash High School history to score 1,000 points, and was the leader in points scored for more than 23 years. And he also, I didn't put this in there, but he also held the single game record high score at 42 points in a game. I don't remember who it was against, but I do remember this. Todd Hensley broke that record, scored 43 in a game at Eastern that Bill and I broadcast. And he was like, they've got a three-pointer, they've got this, we didn't have that when I played, I'd have scored 50 in this game.
That sounds like.
Oh.
So what, 18 letters in high school?
13.
Oh, you got close to that. Oh, you do know that.
I do not.
I didn't get
His leather jacket, you couldn't even finish it.
This guy probably got close to it at Eastbrook, but which is something else we're gonna discuss here in a little bit. Here's something he was proud of. He was inducted into the National Honor Society in 1966. He was Mr. Alumni at Wabash in 2002. A 1971 William Jewell College graduate. Another one of those guys who wasn't drafted into the NFL, but was a free agent. And he was invited to the St. Louis Cardinals NFL camp 2 years in a row. He was the last guy cut, the guy that was the running back, you remember this, you guys will remember this name, that was already on the Cardinals by time, a guy by the name of Jim Otis, running back from, I believe, Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
He was invited back the second year, but love got in the way and he moved home. So, coached a little bit at Manchester College, as we all know, many ASA softball games, and was multiple Indiana State adult softball championships. Inducted into the initial class of the Wabash High School Athletic Hall of Fame in 2010, which he was extremely excited about and proud. This was, and Randy, if I'd have known that you were available, I'd have touched base with you. Glenn Adams was going to accept his plaque that day, and Glenn ended up down sick, and I think maybe even got into the hospital, although he's okay now. I've talked to him since. Glenn was really upset that he couldn't be there. But he was, again, there's a guy who, was a local hero, especially for a little young kid like me that had limited athletic talent, but he treated us like we were special, and I'll never forget that, never.
I want to go back to the softball. I would have been younger in my career when I first played against BJ. And I didn't remember very many players on other teams, you know, I'm just out there playing, but I always remembered him. Kind of that bigger than life personality.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fun to play against, but what a competitor, and wound tight. I mean, back when there weren't bodybuilders and stuff, or, you know, nobody really lifted a lot of weights. Man, he was a man.
Oh, yeah.
And I just enjoyed playing against him.
He was something. Never saw him as a right-handed hitter. Never saw him hit the ball, never saw him pull the ball into left field or hit it over the left field fence. Everything, when he was right, everything went to right center.
Line drive.
Oh, line drive. I
And
mean,
hard.
Oh, wow.
He was playing.
Very, very good player.
Fun guy to be with.
Let's talk about, here's another guy that couldn't be at the ceremony, but we talked a little bit earlier. Robin Gratz from Manchester. 66, graduate of Manchester High School, 4-year member of the football and track teams. To me, I might be wrong here. Randy, you grew up in this area, you guys both, but you were in that loop. To me, this guy now would be kind of a lost entity. He's in the Manchester High School Hall of Fame. He's in the Manchester College Hall of Fame. Second place finisher in the National Junior Champ meet in triple jump in 1965 as a high school kid. He's still the record holder in the high hurdles, low hurdles, and long jump at Manchester High School. Still, he won both the conference and sectional championships in high school in low hurdles and high hurdles. Was a state finalist and was also a state finalist in the long jump. In football, he was named to the first team NLC conference in 1965. Also a 4-year collegiate participant in football and track at Manchester College, where he won 8 varsity letters during his distinguished college career, earning 4 in both football and track. The reason he was at Manchester to start with is because his dad, Jim, was the baseball coach at Manchester College at the time, who's also an institution and he is in this nomination committee or nomination list, and was also their athletic director for quite a while. Anyway, back to Robin. 3-time NAIA All District 21 honoree in football and track and field. Also a 2-time team MVP in both football and track. Ranks 10th all-time in Manchester history in rushing in college, 8th in rushing touchdowns. He won conference titles in the triple jump and the long jump in '69, placing 6th in triple jump, and at the 1969 NAIA National Championships, placing 8th in the triple jump in the '68 NAIA National Championships. Competed at the 1972 Olympic trials in the triple jump, and he still holds the school record at Manchester in the indoor and outdoor long jump and triple jump events. Inducted into the Manchester University Hall of Fame in 1995 and the High School Hall of Fame at Manchester in 2012. Why does the word understated come to my mind?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this guy still holds records from the 60s and the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in general, athletes are bigger, stronger, faster, let's face it. And here's a guy whose records have stood that long. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Still around.
Yeah,
Still around.
he lives in
Always
Columbus.
Low key,
Was he always like that?
unassuming, yeah,
Was he always like
unassuming person, you would never know those things about him.
He still lives in Columbus, Indiana. Plays the organ in the church. He was involved in, I didn't put it in here, but he was involved in a lot of civic projects and stuff like that. His son is also, they moved down there originally to be closer to their kids, who both lived in that area. So, I just, a guy that to me is extremely understated.
Well, I've always felt like
Joel beat
great
him in the
ones.
long jump in high school.
Really?
Yeah,
Really? There you go.
Sweet.
yeah.
I've always felt like a lot of the great ones are kind of like ahead of their time. I mean, like Jim Brown. For his time, he was a lineman who could sprint and carry the football.
Right.
And I gotta believe Robin Gratz was an athlete ahead of his time.
How old is
Yeah.
He's in his late 70s, early 80s, maybe.
Graduated in '66 from Manchester High School.
He's a couple of years older than we are.
Okay.
You're not that old. You don't look that old.
No, you don't.
Didn't look at me.
Yeah, he did look at
Shut up, Tommy.
Hey, he won't come back. Be nice to
Oh,
him.
Tommy will come back. He likes it. He likes this. All right, one that I discussed, actually two, that I discussed earlier, we got time, that I discussed earlier, two. And we can discuss more of these as we go, guys, but I've got another subject along these lines that I want to talk about too. Tom Finnicle, 78 grad of Peru High School, which we won't hold against him. Graduated, we might, graduated from ISU, where he played club volleyball, and
he? He
in
graduated in 78?
76, sorry,
Okay,
76.
well, still,
Just
there's
saying.
no way he's younger than me and you.
Yeah, he is, by a year.
No way.
Played club volleyball in January of '81, and a year later began his career at Southwood. He served as the junior high volleyball coach under the tutelage of head coach Mike Swan. When Mike moved on to Huntington College and then Evansville University, Tom became the head coach in 1986 and also the athletic director. And I was in the sporting goods business at that time, and I remember people talking back then saying, he'll never make it, he's too young and immature. Wow. Get this, and this is accurate going into this season. I think they played one match so far, not in here. His team's overall record through 2024 is 892 wins, 389 losses, which is 70%. His team's record in the TRC is 225 and 52, 81%. His teams have gone undefeated in the TRC 15 times and won 21 championships. His teams have won 26 sectionals, 13 regionals, and 3 semi-state championships. And he doesn't think that he deserves this honor? Wow. 2 of the sectional titles came in his second and third seasons. Think about that. Too immature. His teams have finished runner-up at the Class A state finals in 2009 to Muncie Burris, in parentheses, the mythical national championship, or national champion, and in 2014 to Providence. Between 2008 and 2014, his teams won 7 straight regional titles. He won the 2023 1A state championship, 3-1 over number 1 Tecumseh, and it was such a big celebration in the volleyball corners of this county that, I mean, it was a big deal. To Tom, it was a relief. I finally won one. Now, he may not tell you that, but then again, he might, because that was his attitude. His team's best season came in 2024, last year, when the Lady Knights went 31-1, losing only to Western Boone in the 2A semi-state. They had to move up because they won the year before. Under Coach Finnicle, they have 11 seasons with 30 or more wins, and they have only 7 losing seasons in his 35 plus years as head coach. He was inducted into the Indiana High School Volleyball Hall of Fame in November of 2003, and that was during the tournament. And they had to set all of this up, and they had to get the state involved in it, or the state got them involved in it, because he was not going to accept the honor. They surprised him and brought back a lot of his older players and had a program and surprised him just to get that done. Can you imagine? He served as athletic director at Southwood for the past 36 years and has been on the IHSAA board since 2019. But he didn't, at the end of this, I went, he doesn't think he deserves this honor.
I didn't know all that, but I know you know, we did high school sports for years, and it was always a joy to go to Southwood. Tom was always on top of things. It just worked like clockwork, and he was great to deal
He's a
with.
worker.
Yeah.
Built an unbelievable program.
He's told me for the last 3 or 4 years, this is my last one, I'm getting out, I'm retiring. I'm done. Mary says if he ever retires, she'll kill him. And then another guy I want to talk about, and we talked off the top of the show, Jared Cordes. Here's a guy that I don't see every day, but he's always been close to my heart, and you'll see why here in a little bit. Jared is a 1996 Northfield High School graduate. He was an IHSAA runner-up in cross country in 1995, runner-up in the 1600 meters in 95 with, I'm not going to bore you with those stats. He was inducted into the IHSAA Hall of Fame in February of 2006. He's a University of Wisconsin graduate where he met his wife, who is also All-American caliber on the women's side. A member of the Wisconsin National runner-up cross-country team, placed 78th at the NCAA cross-country championships at Indiana in the fall of '99. Now you think, 78, placing 78th as a team, that's a big deal when there's 500 teams. He placed 5th in the steeplechase at the NCAA Division I Outdoor Track and Field Championships at Duke University in 2000, which attained him All-American status granted to the top 8 finishers. Finished 21st in the 2000 NCAA Division I Cross Country Championships, again as an All-American. There's all of these accolades. He is an 8-time All-American, 4-time All-American at Wisconsin in the steeplechase twice, and in cross country in the other 2. Inducted into the Indiana Athletic Track and Cross Country Hall of Fame in 2006. But here's the story I want to tell, and I did. I said he and his wife Erica currently own and run the Cordes Berry Farm in Rowan, which they do.
I want to know more about that.
Well,
I love berries.
Oh yeah. But he's also known in this parts as a legend in Wabash Babe Ruth baseball. Jared was a pretty good left-handed hitter with a lot of base running speed. Gee, where'd he get that? In the 1991 state championship game in Terre Haute, and I was kind of looking out of the corner of my eye, and he had this half grin on his face, and he's thinking, he told me later, he's thinking, how do you remember this? I was coaching. We're down 2-1 with 2 outs and nobody on in the top of the 7th inning. We send him up in a pinch hitting role with an 0-2 count, nobody on. He hits one of those seeing eye singles up the middle, gets on base, steals second, touches off a 12-run inning that propelled us to the state championship, winning that game 13-2. And he was like almost embarrassed when I pointed that out, because it's all about track. But we've talked about this forever. What if he'd have played baseball too? There you go.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm sorry, maybe I'm the only one that cares, but I just thought that was a cool anecdote. So, several others that have been involved in this thing, as we go, and when this Hall of Fame kiosk goes up, it's gonna be pretty cool. I've said this a number of times, Pete's heard me say this a million times. I am scared to death that we're gonna do all this work and somebody is gonna walk up and go, well, my grandpa wasn't on that team or whatever. But Teresa Gowdy has convinced me that that's the beauty of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because then she's gonna write down that info, or I'm gonna write down that info and go down one of those rabbit holes that I warn Alex about all the time. I'm going down a rabbit hole, Alex, help me out. So, I don't know, this is kind of a special baby to me, if you will.
And it should be. I think maybe you should, you know, you went through several today, but, you know, go through a couple of these every month.
We can do that.
Yeah,
And,
highlight it.
We can do that.
Everybody needs to be, recognized.
I mean,
Absolutely.
we're starting to run short on a little time here, but there are several more that I'd like to discuss. But before we do that, let's give you an update as to what we've got upcoming on Talkin Sports for the next several months. I used to do this, when we first started doing this, I would be like a month out. I'm thinking, okay, gee, it's August, I need to find somebody for September. Boys, we are through January, and I've got 1, 2, 3 more, which could turn into about 6 more going. Next month, we will have a discussion on the Wabash Athletic Association, as I said earlier, and its history with Pete Jones. In October, Stan Leland has Wabash County Sports Hall of Famer has said that he will come and be with us in October. In November, the Wabash Express football team with former members Steve Jeffers, Dave Snyder, and Mark Keene, and maybe others. In December, you ready for this? This is gonna be one of your
I
favorites.
saw it. This is gonna be fun.
Old memories of doing Wabash County football, basketball, and baseball games on the radio, including Friday night sports talk with Brian Tonsoni.
Boy,
Now, Brian is still teaching over in Delphi or Rossville, I can't remember which. When I texted him and asked him if he'd be interested in doing this, he texted me back within 30 seconds. He said, I'd love to, when is it? And I told him the date, and he said, well, that's finals day here, but I will be there.
he does a daily podcast.
Yeah, he does, and he's good at
on
it.
basketball mostly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
January, we will have, ready for this one? Grant County Sports Hall of Fame President Randy Holt will be here. And Randy and I have been going back and forth since we started this. This is their current program. They had their induction the day after ours. They've been doing it since 2009. Randy has been involved in this the entire time. He does most of this by himself, which I couldn't do. I say that, but yeah. Anyway, Grant County Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2025. Well, I knew this, but I didn't know this for an absolute when it was. But we have a Hall of Famer amongst us. In the Grant County Hall of Fame is one Richard Harness.
Hey, hey.
So we will, I know you will have, and this is one of the reasons I did it. It was kind of down the road a little, but I wanted to have Randy on because I want him to give us some insight as to how they started the Grant County Hall of Fame.
You will know.
And yeah, and he does. I've been on the phone with him a couple of times. He's been over here. I did a radio interview with him over Marion a few months back. He will have information, but I kind of want to hear, not today because I know you'll get all choked up, and I mean that sincerely. I want some insight from you, Rick, as to how that all developed when you were nominated and a whole thing.
Yeah, basically the same story as Tom Pinnacle. There's no way. Yeah.
I don't know if you,
And Randy Holt was in the same induction class as I was.
yes.
Yeah.
Is Randy bringing Brenner with him?
Hopefully not. Because if he does, this show will never end.
That's a good point. Good point.
It's, I don't know, this is becoming more of a labor of love than I thought it would be, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. But I also enjoy Talkin Sports, which was kind of the redheaded stepchild, if you will, originally, and now it's turned into.
As a redheaded stepchild,
Careful.
I resent that.
Careful. I was gonna say.
But I mean, we've gone from just doing, a replacement parlay, Thursday parlay, Tom, you were here that day, to becoming a monthly entity in the museum that's becoming, kind of a thing. And again, thanks to guys like you, Alec, who have really helped me develop this whole thing. And it's kind of taken on a life of its own. I mean,
Good.
How many views are we getting these days?
last month was like 2,500. And that's one of the reasons that Teresa and Jeff wanted to go on YouTube as opposed to Facebook Live, because YouTube stays up permanently and is really easier to get to me. I'm
My
not.
wife accuses us of continuing to pull it up to run the numbers up.
Yeah.
I've never had it up before, I don't even know,
Has Amy-
I've never watched.
Has Amy talked to Nancy? Because that's what Nancy says too.
Who wants to listen to us?
But this whole thing starts with this, guys. You'll get a kick out of this. Mike, you'll get a kick out of this. This whole thing starts with this, and this is the third time it's happened. Teresa asked me if we'd be interested in doing this, or if I'd be interested in doing this, and I said, I got 3 buddies that I did radio with, games and the like, that are available. And I said, I hope they're available. And I called Rick, and Rick said, and I'm gonna paraphrase here, but Rick said, I just want you to know that in retirement, I'm only doing things that bring me joy, and that's an exact quote. And I thought to myself, I just retired too. I've kind of taken on that moniker also. When I said something to Mac, he was like, you've always done it right, I'll do anything you want me to do. When I talked to Jimmy, I called Jimmy and I said, what do you think? And he goes, for the 3rd time, let's get the band back together. And here we are. So,
I think the thing we've had fun with, whether it was high school sports or whether it's this, it's not about us. We're just here as facilitators to talk to you guys, get your stories, to give these people some recognition. You know, that's what we're here for.
I mean, Rick's original thought process was, I don't know that much about history. Especially Wabash County sports history, and I said, it's not going to be just Wabash County history. And that's where it originates, but there's more to it. And he said, I just don't want to be embarrassed. We haven't embarrassed you yet, have we?
You have, but not the program.
In case you don't get a listen in December, to kind of end on a light
Oh,
note here.
jeez, here we go.
During our sports talk show, there's gonna be a lot of embarrassing stories and hopefully funny
Okay,
stories.
first of all, let's preface this by saying Brian Tonsoni originally got involved in this with us broadcasting because he was coaching in Northfield. And he was a young coach, very enthusiastic, not always appreciated by the parents of his players, which they found out later was a mistake. Once he was relieved of his duties, I mean, within a couple of days, I called him and said, Brian, would you want to be involved in the broadcasting in the Friday night show? Boom! And he had no access to grind, that wasn't it. He just wanted to be involved in sports and still be able to be close to some of the kids he coached. And that's where it started going.
He knew the story I was gonna tell.
Yeah.
Brian usually was with us in the studio on the sports talk show, but this particular night he happened not to be. And Rick always did a lot of trivia stuff along with sports. This isn't directly sports related, but he asked the question. It's Thanksgiving, the day after
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
yeah, the Friday night
And
after.
you're gonna have a turkey sandwich, leftover turkey sandwich. Mustard or mayo? And we had people calling in, mustard, mayo, they told stories. Tonsoni calls in and says, you guys are missing the boat. Like, what? He goes, gravy. And when he said, the greatest answer of all time.
Pretty original.
It was good.
Along those,
I couldn't argue with
no,
it.
No, hey, winner.
along those same lines, there was a question, and I'm not gonna go into great detail because it went way, way off the beaten path. But Rick is still really good at, pop culture trivia. And this is one of the reasons that my wife calls me the king of useless trivia. He said, on the air, he said, all right, here's tonight's trivia question. Ginger or Mary Ann? And we're all going, well, I want to date Ginger because of this, or I want to date with Mary Ann because of this. And I finally, after all these
I was
questions,
gonna tell them what I said. Why do you wanna resurrect that?
after all of the repercussion and the people calling in and voicing their opinions, I said, Rick, which one would you want to date? And he went, both. And that started us down another
I
rabbit hole.
think I said I need to excuse myself because I did them both. That was a joke.
Which also isn't true because it's way too young for that. We all are, even though we're old. But anyway, that's why we're here. That's why we do this. And I'm gonna warn you, as we go and you look at this list of upcoming months, and I mean, I've got several other names, and other people that I want to discuss. And now that I was gonna talk to you about this, but now that Randy's here,
Story of my life, that's all right.
I would like to do one at some point with you and Glenn Adams, and now I'd like you
Or
involved.
just Glenn Adams, right?
Right.
So we will figure all that out. Glenn, I've talked to Glenn, he's like, yeah, I'd be honored. So, I mean, we could talk about that era. That was the last time up until 2 years ago that Wabash had won a regional in basketball. You guys were involved in that. It just goes. And as we go, I want to do the same thing with several of the others. I've talked to Terry Seidel, who was the head coach at Southwood when they won the football state championship. He said, let me know when you want to do it. I will make the trip up from Brownsburg. There's still players in this area that played on that team. We've got high school baseball teams that won the state. I've talked to Troy Miller. I haven't talked to Tony Ugan yet, although I can because I've got his number. Tony's still coaching baseball at Blackford, although he's not the athletic director anymore. I know Tony would come up and do it. Jack Rupley from Manchester, another one of our, for lack of a better term, drinking buddies. He would do it in a heartbeat.
So we got to do the state championship game when Jack won the state championship. We got to do the state championship game with Seidel when they won. So those are great memories. For
Just
us.
a quickie on that, on the football one. We had a huge broadcast team that day because it was in the Hoosier Dome or the RCA Dome or whatever they called it back then. And when you're doing radio, you have headphones on and you can hear the studio, because so you'll know when the ad break ends and they count it back to you and say 3, 2, 1, boom. Well, we're in Indianapolis. You can't hear the radio station from there. Now, nowadays it's different, and apparently there are ways you can do that. I'm not privy to that. I don't know, but I know that day we had no way. So Jim and I were in Mr. Ursay's box doing the game.
Yeah, that was cool.
And that was really cool. But we were like on our watches, counting it down, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever, and then going. On the field was Rick, Todd Sony, and your brother Tim.
Yeah, I think so.
And they had microphones. We could hear them. Could you hear it? No, you couldn't hear us because you didn't have headphones on.
No.
We could hear them. They couldn't hear us. So when they would break in and say, well, Jared McKee's pass was out here to the corner just a little too long, here's why, da-da-da-da-da-da. We had all those discussions. But the greatest thing ever was the field goal that won the game with what, 30 seconds left or something like
Yeah.
that. When Brandon Eric kicked that,
46-yard field goal,
yeah,
I believe.
longest at that
Yeah.
time, longest in state history.
Yeah,
These guys are under the goalpost like the referees. You know how the referees are, they're standing there, they'll go, you know, they're doing the same thing. And as soon as I'm describing the kick, and as soon as it leaves Aaron's foot, I hear Rick, or I think it was Tom Sony yelling, "It's good! It's good!" Wasn't even there yet.
we don't know, but they do. One more sideline to that story, last thing. Have you ever seen Bill, has anybody here seen Bill speechless? Well, I have. When they were doing the ceremony, when Coach Seidel's son, who played on the team, came out, Bill's announcing all this. And Bill starts tearing up and looks at me and goes, like, say something, because he could not speak. He was so emotionally involved at that point. It was pretty cool.
They let Terry give his son the ribbon with the medal on it, as opposed to just the IHSAA guy doing it. Broke me up.
Bill lost it.
I was done. My wife was like, she's at the shop and she's listening, and she's like, "What happened? And when I get home, what happened? You weren't talking. Did you have to go to the bathroom or something?" No, wasn't that.
You still cry when you watch Old Yeller, don't you?
Yes. My daughter-in-law will send me, to this day, she will send me little video clips, text them to me or whatever. And before I can even watch it, she'll text me again and go, "Did you cry?" Because she knows me. Oh well. All right, let's end this thing. Get these guys out of here and out of their misery. I'm talking about them, not us. Thanks for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. Again, Mike, you guys, don't be afraid to chime in. I mean, you might not because you're much more intelligent, but Mike is a different story.
Well, as Tom mentioned earlier, we don't have a lot of crowd here all the time because people are watching, but
Right.
it's so much fun to have you guys here where we can have some eye contact, we can bounce things off, get your opinions. It's so much better just to be a discussion.
It's one of the reasons that, in Teresa's mind, it's one of the reasons, just another one of the reasons, that we go to YouTube on this, because of the amount of hits that we get. And Hope, am I right in assuming this? The number of hits that we are getting on this program way outweighs people being in studio. Am I right? Okay. So again, thank you guys for coming. Alec, thanks for coming down from upstairs, because I know that if I was wrong on any of this stuff, Pete and Alec would be right on it. So.
By the way, as an incentive for people to come in, you can mention our sponsors.
Yes.
And,
Can you see
Right
with
behind your,
with my big old fat head? Modoc's Market fuels us every time with coffee and treats, and they are happy to do so. I have coffee down there every morning, so. I
join
hear
us
about
and
it.
have a treat.
Yeah, join us and have a treat. So until next month, when we will have Pete Jones here to discuss the Wabash Athletic Association, and hopefully you guys too. We will be back then, 4 weeks from today, right here at the Wabash County Museum. Thanks for watching.